I'll wrap up with this account that came out of World War II. The very end, 1944, U.S. troops in that region were asked to take a French city that was occupied by the Nazis. And it would be quite a bloodbath, probably. But the good news is that French resistance, at great danger to their lives, had smuggled out for several weeks a detailed map of that city. It had where the snipers were located, where the machine gun nests were stationed, and where the majority of the soldiers were located. And this was like gold for the U.S. troops as they were soon to go into that city and try to take it from the Nazis. The commanding officer had copies of that map and passed it out to every soldier. They were given 2 hours to memorize the details of that map. And 10 minutes before they went into battle, that commanding officer gave every single soldier a quiz on what they had learned on that map. They took the quiz, turned it in, and when it was graded, how do you think the soldiers did? Almost every single one had a perfect score. And they went into battle at very little loss to American lives and took the city because of the map. Interesting, 40 years later, an Army researcher came upon that story, upon that map and that quiz. And in that city, he would kind of tell the story, what took place in that French city. And American tourists just loved hearing the story. But he took it one step further. He asked for volunteers, and there was always quite a few over the weeks that he did this. And he said, if you will help me, we want to conduct a little experiment. And they said yes. And so he gave them the map. Gave them 2 hours, the same amount of time the soldiers had, to study the map. And at the end of the 2 hours, he gave those Americans the quiz. I ask you, how do you think the U.S. tourists did on their quiz? Almost every single one failed the quiz. The question is, why did the soldiers do so well and the tourists do so poorly? I think it was simply a matter of motivation. It was that the soldiers, their lives were on the line. They realized that there was a war, that there was a battle, that there was an enemy, and they needed to step up and depend on their team and their training and their commanders. The tourists, why, they were tourists. This was an interesting story. They had an afternoon off, and it was kind of fun to be part of a research project, but their lives weren't on the line, and they ended up failing. I think that's the same today. If we as followers of Jesus Christ think we're just tourists and we live in a playground, we're probably going to be unprepared. We're not going to put on the armor of God. We're not going to realize the depth of the battle. We might be oblivious to what's going on. On the other hand, if we see ourselves as soldiers, we realize this isn't a playground, it's a battlefield. We will have our eyes open. We'll be alert. We will learn the schemes of the evil one. And most of all, we'll put on all 6 pieces of the armor